Welcome to Beyond the Bizarre, a podcast curated to all things, well, bizarre. My name is Brianna, and I will be sharing with you urban legends, lore, ghost stories, and more from around our planet. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Beyond the Bizarre. I'm Brianna, your host, and I'm glad to have you guys back for another episode and another week with us here at Beyond the Bizarre. So, this week marks another week of our September special on rituals. Last week, we shared with you all the ritual of Lady Spades, and that was really interesting to be able to share. And I also shared with you all a personal story of mine about a separate legend known as the legend of Bloody Mary. I'm having a lot of fun being able to share these rituals with you all and researching them and reading about them and getting creeped out by them. It's really, really fun. I'm happy and glad to be able to share this with you all as well. So that leads me to tonight's episode. Of course, we're going to be exploring another ritual. On tonight's episode, we're going to be sharing and talking about the ritual known as the picture game. So, the picture game derives from spirit photography. For those of you who don't know what spirit photography is it's kind of like the act of capturing a image of a ghost or spirit on camera in a photograph. So the first spirit photography, or should I say the spirit photography movement, kind of emerged as a part of what was called the spiritualist movement in the late 19th century. So when all of that was going on, spirit photography kind of became popular. Some of you may remember or have seen a movie called The Haunting of Connecticut, Haunting in Connecticut. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's one of those where the in the house that they lived in, well, for those who haven't seen it, spoiler alert, because I'm about to say a spoiler. So if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. But in the house that they lived in, it was a funeral parlor, and the man that owned the house, he used a boy with psychic abilities to provoke spirits through seance. So the spirits would move through this psychic boy and they would capture images, not necessarily of the spirits themselves, but just the energy that they emit. And I think they called it ectoplasm or something like that. I can't really remember, but it was something along the lines of that. So if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. I would consider watching it. It was really creepy. And that's kind of what the picture game kind of reminded me of when I had read about it. That's the first thing that popped into my mind. But back to the spirit photography of the late 19th century. So they weren't the photographs weren't really authentic, so to speak. A lot of the photographers will kind of con the family members, the grieving family members who have recently lost loved ones, and they would tell them that, hey, I can capture your loved one on camera, or I can take a picture of them to show to you. But with these photographers, they would use special camera techniques, in camera techniques, kind of like double exposure, to create the image that made them think that they were seeing their loved one when it really wasn't. So the images weren't really real, they were kind of fraudulent. So the elements of spirit photography was pretty much capturing the dead loved one in a photograph, but the spirit photography had no mention of possibly trapping spirits in photographs. I think that kind of comes from the notion of the shouldn't say the notion, the old time belief that when your picture is taken, you lose your soul gets trapped in the photograph, or when your picture's taken, you lose your soul, which is why they say you shouldn't take pictures of babies. I don't know. I've had plenty of my pictures taken, and I guess at this point, in this world of social media, we're all soulless. I'm just kidding. But that is it's a cool myth that's kind of spread it around. Haven't done much research on it, but what I may do a little bit of research on it and include it on our show notes post on our website. So, as for the picture game, the notion that a spirit can get trapped in a camera is where the picture game kind of derives from. So, like most of the rituals that we've discovered and shared, the picture game emerged on the internet in the early 2010s. So, this game, it kind of plays into that fear, once again, that taking someone's photo steals their soul. And when you see the picture, it's not just a regular picture, it's something else. Something else is there. So, it's not something that's not exactly living, but not exactly dead either, which is kind of what a spirit is. And who's to say if you were to play this game, what you will see may not even be a spirit at all? It may be something much, much worse. With that being said, let's get into how to play the picture game. Step 1. Recruit a few friends that are brave enough to play with you. In order to play the game, you need at least 2 players total, but more players may participate. Step 2. Choose where you will play. Any dark, quiet room will do. Basement, large closet. Just make sure that it's a quiet and dark room. Step 3. Gather your supplies. The supplies you will need are one small hand mirror for each player, string. Make sure that you have enough string to form a circle that is large enough for all players to sit around. If you don't have any string, you can use kitchen twine, rope, cord. Just make sure that it creates a large enough circle to fit all the players. Knife or scissors. A camera with flash capability. A drinking glass. And a beverage. Preferably alcoholic, ideally wine. Now, if you are a minor listening to this episode and or deciding to play this game, if you're listening to the episode, be sure if you're under the age 13, before you're listening any further, get permission from a parental guardian or listen with your parental guardian. As always, listener discretion is advised. And if you're deciding to play under the legal drinking age, you can use a substitute such as grape juice, non-alcoholic cocktail. Just use a substitute for it. Step 4. Wait until midnight. When the clock strikes 12 midnight, gather the supplies and head to the playing space. All of the players should be heading to the playing space together. Prepare the playing space by drawing the curtains or blocking any windows. So make sure the room is completely dark. If you're in a basement, cover the windows. If you're in a closet that has no windows, then you don't really have any steps to take. Take the string or rope or twine or whatever you're using and form it into a circle. Tie the ends together in a knot and place the circle in the center of the room. Take the drinking glass and place the glass in the center of the circle and fill it with the chosen beverage. In regards to the camera, ensure that the camera's flash is turned on. When all this is completed, the last thing you will need to do is turn out the lights. Step 5. Once the lights are turned off, have all the players sit in the circle around the outside edge of the rope. Once all the players are sitting down, each player must place their hand mirror that they brought with them on the floor in front of them, with the reflective side of the mirror facing up at the ceiling. As for the camera, keep the camera within easy reach. But remember, do not place the camera inside of the circle. Step 6. This is the important step. Close your eyes. All of the players must close their eyes on this step and keep them closed. Reach out and find the hands of those sitting next to you. Important. You will need to hold hands in an unbroken circle in order for the game to be successful. Once you're holding hands, one by one, go around the circle and declare your trust in one another. In regards to declaring your trust, you may declare your trust however you like. It may be as simple or as elaborate or grandiose as you want. The only requirement is that each player states their trust individually. For this to work, you cannot speak in unison. So if I'm playing in a circle with friends, I can say I trust Jonah, or you can be, it's like I said, simple, just say I trust this person, or you can just sing it to the top of your lungs. However, you just have to state individually. You can't state together. After you all declare your trust for one another, then you may all speak in unison and say this: the door has been opened. Please come in. Step 7. All players may now open their eyes. Step 8. After opening your eyes, all players should unlink their hands and begin passing the camera around the circle. Each player that picks up the camera should pick up the camera and say, I capture you. Point the camera towards the person sitting opposite of them and snap one photograph. Keep in mind, you will not be taking a picture of the person sitting opposite of you. After the photograph has been taken, the player must pass the camera to the next person sitting on their left. Important. If you are all playing using a digital camera, do not, I repeat, do not preview the photograph that you just took. Repeat the process until the camera has been passed around the circle 3 times. After the last picture has been taken, place the camera on the ground. Once again, do not place the camera within the circle. Step 9. Now, all the players must close their eyes and hold each other's hands again. In unison, repeat 3 times the following phrase: It is time to go home now. After stating this, all players may unlink their hands and turn the mirrors upside down. The reflective side of each player's mirror should now be facing the floor. Once this action has passed, have the player that's sitting closest to the light switch turn on the lights. Then, take the scissors or knife, whichever one you've brought with you, and snip open the circle. As for the drinking glass, take the glass outside and empty it over a patch of dirt or earth. Step 10. If you're using a disposable camera, take your photographs to get developed. Then, in a room that is well lit, take a look at him. Look closely, but beware and be careful of what you might see and what you might find. Here's some additional information to keep in mind while playing the picture game. Some people who have played the game find it helpful to have one player designated as the guide. So the guide takes lead in preparing the playing space, making sure everything is in order, turning on, turning off the lights, beginning the trust declarations, and pretty much leading the whole game itself, passing the cameras, leading the farewell, and also taking the photographs to get developed, designating one person to be in control of everything. So during the ritual, if during step 8, this is important. If a player begins to feel or behave oddly or feel off in any way, do not, I repeat, do not allow them or make them, force them to take any photographs. If this happens, skip over them. The camera should instead be passed to the next person immediately to that player's left. If several players during step 8 begin to feel off or behave weird or oddly, stop the game. Do not proceed. Put down the camera immediately and proceed to step 9. In the game. Do not develop the pictures. If you're using a digital camera, do not look at the pictures. And for the sake and safety of all the players involved, destroy the camera. The picture game is a really cool ritual. I feel it's not the scariest one I've heard of, but it's really, really interesting. I think the coolest thing is, well, not so much as cool, but at the end it's saying destroy the camera if everyone starts feeling bad or feeling odd or behaving oddly, destroy the camera. So I would suggest if anyone were to play this game, they probably shouldn't use a Nikon or a Canon. They should probably just use an old disposable, a camera they don't really care about to play in the case that they have to destroy. But also another thing that the ritual didn't get into was once the photos are developed and if you take when you take the pictures to get them developed and when you look at the pictures if it's on a digital camera, if you look at the pictures after the game is completed and if you were to see something, then what do you do? Do you still keep the camera? Does it still have to be destroyed? Is whatever you took a picture of, is it trapped in the camera? I think I think those are good, valid questions. But I think that's more so where all the steps were for, like the circle and the wine and or whatever beverage they chose. It's interesting that wine is an ideal beverage to use, and because I guess because it's used in a lot of offerings, especially with rituals and things like that. So I think that's more so why the game calls for wine to be used as the beverage of choice. Once again, if you're under the legal drinking age of 21 in America or under the legal drinking age in your country, then I don't see anything wrong with using some sparkling non-alcoholic cider or some grape juice as a substitute. In regards to having a guide, I think that's a really, really great tip because you want to have one person that kind of can plan everything out, make sure everything goes accordingly, kind of just have like that one responsibility instead of everyone, especially if you're playing with like a bigger group of people. If you're playing with more than 4 people, I feel like a guide is definitely helpful to be the one to turn on the lights, to be the one to prepare the playing space, to be sure that everything, no T's are left uncrossed, no I's are left undotted. You want to kind of have everyone on the same page just to ensure the safety. But as I had stated at the beginning, this legend well, I should say, this ritual game had emerged online in the mid 2010s, along with a lot of the other rituals that we've discussed in past episodes, such as the elevator game and Three Kings ritual. And I think it's really cool that a lot of these have kind of spread over time and have been played, possibly. I think with the picture game, it probably has been played, considering the fact that it does have ties to history, such as spirit photography. And it mentions feeling odd or feeling weird or behaving oddly. Like for those steps to be included, they've had to have been experienced at one point. So I think that's really cool. And the fact that this is a game that ties to history, which is one of my favorite subjects, I just wanted to share, and I thought it was really, 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 really interesting. Like I said, it wasn't too frightening because, like, I guess because it has a historical standpoint, it's not just something that's just random or creepy. It kind of has ties to history. But also, I guess that's where the appeal comes from, with it having that history background where it does tie to something that was heard of and that has been passed down through the years. As many rituals, whether internet rituals or just rituals that have been passed down by word of mouth over the years. I guess a lot of them kind of have ties to history. Some at some moment, I guess all rituals can be linked back to that. And speaking of rituals, we will be sharing one more ritual with you all for the month of September next week. I'm going to try to make it a good one for you all, something that I don't think anyone's heard, so I'll be on the hunt for that, looking for that to share with you all. So, with that being said, have a great night, sleep tight, and as always, stay bizarre.